And so we're going to switch gears a little bit because we all know that we're in customer service driven industry, right? And so despite our pain, despite the obvious, I remember for me, and I know that that difficulty has to be even greater. How do you bring those customers back? Or do you draw a line in which customers that you may want? How do you help create a positive customer experience, even though as leaders in the industry, sometimes the experience is not positive for you, right? How do you deal with that? And this is really open, and I like all four of you to address it as a whole.
Well, I mean, I think that can be it can be a challenge at times. To Erica's point, I've had that happen to me of, I'd like to speak with someone in charge, and then they call me and I come out and they're like, no, no, no. And I said, well, either you're going to go talk to the white general manager and then he's going to call me and then bring me back to you. So do you want to do this now or you want to go through that layer? And they're like, oh, again, you got to educate them, and you hate that you have to take the time to do it. Some are more receptive than others. And unfortunately, we have been fortunate to be in business for 47 years, and we wouldn't be in business without a lot of repeat and referral business. And so, unfortunately, if it doesn't fit for someone, then they don't necessarily need to do business with us, because I'm about making sure that my employees feel comfortable who are different, that my customers who feel comfortable who are different. And that's the main focus for me. I'm not in it to try to sell a vehicle today and not see you ever again. My whole goal is to make you a part of our extended family. I know that sounds very cliche, but I mean, after all this time, there's too many opportunities and choices that people have. So you have to create, raise that bar or whatever that level is. And that's where your reputation stands on. And being in a smaller community, not being in like an Atlanta, but, I think there's pros and cons with both of that. I mean, so there's even more options in a larger city or Nashville or that type of thing. But maybe where Amanda and I are, there's not as many opportunities. So that word travels faster amongst certain groups or cliques or just through the community. And that one good thing can make it, continue to make it very good for you, or that one bad situation can just, we all know, can explode and go a lot deeper and hurt a lot worse than all the good that you've done.
Makes sense.
Coming from a vendor standpoint that has had to work with dealers in regards to customer service, one of the things that I think is of value or gave me value to my dealers that I worked with was the fact that the customer service starts from the very first interaction with the dealership, whether that's the ad they received or the first phone call that they made or how they were treated on the lot. I was fortunate enough to work for a company that actually monitored the phone calls. And for me to go that extra mile to actually listen to the phone calls, bring that to the dealer principal or the GM or the manager's attention and say, not only did this person have the worst call I've ever heard today, but this person had the best call I ever heard today. And let's get in some training, because this is where the rubber meets the road for a lot of consumers. It's at that initial invite into the dealership. And that happens, like I said, when they call in or when they're walking on the lot, and then it progresses from there. The other thing is, then once they get on the lot and they have that great customer experience, then how are they greeted in the service department? Because now I bought a car from you as a consumer. Now, what is that like when I need to bring it back in for service, whether it's on a customer paid RO or if it's on a warranty? How am I treated from a service department standpoint? And when I purchased that car, did somebody introduce me to my service writer or to the service manager so that we could make that introduction immediately and say, welcome to come in, your first oil change is on us, whatever that may be, to get them introduced and into that service bay when that first 5,000 mile or 3,000 mile checkup is needed on that vehicle. So all of that for me is important for every one of my dealers to understand, and I'm there to help them. And even if they say, you know what, Roxanne, we can't afford to have companies come in and just train. Listen, I'm offering this to you as a courtesy because it's important for you to be successful, because that's my customer service. And then you're going to tell your dealer friend down the street who you break bread with every night about how I serviced you and helped you grow your sales and your business throughout your profit centers.
Very good.
Well, I'll add this. When I look at it from a customer care point of view, one of my bosses told me there's two things you can't overcome, and it's poverty and ignorance. And when I'm dealing with a client, I'm gonna do everything I can to take care of them. But when it comes to there's a point of ignorance, I've learned to respect the fact that there's some customers I can't help, there's some customers that I can't teach, and there's some customers that I can't do business with, and that's okay. So when you learn to separate the stuff and not take it personal, there's a part of me that goes a little bit further because I feel like I'm holding the weight of all the women in the future who are going to come after me, as well as the women before me. So any situation this customer may have felt where they said, I didn't have a good experience, because I'm doing all that I can to try to break that mold and break that barrier, so that when they say, wow, dealing with an African-American woman in the car business was actually a much better experience than I expected it to be, then that's just one seed, one step, one customer in the right direction. And as we continue to grow and bring more women and attract them in this business, I want people to talk about it. I want those reviews. I want to take a picture with you and the customer so they can put it out on their Facebook page and say, wow, she doesn't look like what I expected. And neither does my team. And for me, that word of mouth, customer care, customer concern, and customer relationship that we're building is what is going to be the epitome of drawing more people, into the business to be customers and employees, but also for those that are looking and saying, maybe I could be in this business. If she can, I can, right? I don't have a degree. I don't have an education that brought me in. And so when I'm mentoring women and telling them that part of my story is the best customer service to me I could ever give, is by being an example and a representation of what can happen and can be. And to my customers who say something like, oh, you're a manager here? Oh, what HBC did you go to? And while I would have loved to go into an HBCU, I'm okay saying I didn't. And them saying, wow, and you're a manager here? I am. And that to me is just enough.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, that you're so positive, because, those are touch points, right? That are like, what is exactly that you're saying? Or aren't we here just to buy a car, right? And it goes beyond that. And so there's that codified type of language that I think that women deal with in the industry, and especially. So a lot of this is, so I'll give you a little quick background. I have 5 sisters. In the industry itself, in the years that I worked, I never worked with an African-American salesperson or manager before I actually left the mainstream of the industry. And I often wondered and talked to my sisters, like, if it's tough for me, how difficult is it with that language that's seen but unheard that happens in the industry, and what must African-American women of color go through as they are climbing the ladder, and they're much more talented frequently, that may not have the opportunity, which requires that relationship and that mentorship, right, in order to get to the next level. And so I find this really intriguing in what you all are saying, because it tells me that your stories are tougher, right? And that you are more solid than most men, and most men of color that at least we're in the door, even though we're the minority. You guys are really plotting your own courses in the years that you've been in the industry, and you're alone, right? A lot of times until now, this genre, this new industry is allowing these connections. Like, we're connected and we're probably, 1,000 miles apart, but we're able to be connected. How is today's climate affecting you?
And I said, okay, first, I need to know what kind of interest